And now I will get on with the reading. The excerpt I will read from comes from the part where our protagonist, the little girl, is slowly luring this sailor to become her father. And of course, he's absolutely reluctant, but she's persistent. In this scene, something happens, so enjoy it. A persistent tong, tong, tong drilled into Muhyiddin's past midnight dreaming. It took him another 6 minutes to understand that the banging came from a door that was not within his dreams. His eyes snapped open. Tong, tong, tong. Groggy, livid, grumbling, he wrapped a kikoi around his waist and proceeded down the stairs, stumbling against the staircase and stubbing his big toe. "Makende," he yelped. By the time he had dragged aside the lock, caught the skin of his thumb in between the clasps, howled against and wrenched open the door, he was ready to commit murder. There she was again, a little girl shifting from left foot to right with bright-eyed urgency in a still night under a waning gibbous moon. "Kuja uone, come, see." She tugged at his arms, trying to drag him out. His bewildered, "What?" But he followed her. "Hurry," she demanded. "An emergency?" He raced after her. She was steps ahead of him and kept looking back. "Hurry," her arms beckoned. "Something has happened to her mother." He wondered if he should have carried bandages. They arrived at a promontory. Below them, a tide swirled. A cool breeze provided a bass note for soughing night creatures. An invisible reptile interspersed the melodies with a monotone croak. Night jasmine infused the air, and the sky above tossed lights across eternity, splashing white, blue, yellow, and red sparks in the sky, which was reflected in the black mirror of the water. The child, tugging at Muhyiddin's arm, attempted a whisper as she pointed skyward at the moon. "Who has break the moon?" Her voice contained a compressed worry. She turned to peer into his face as if he must know, as if she suspected he would do something about the lunar vandalism. Muhyiddin had scanned the earth. He saw the night sky as if for the first time. "Who done it?" Ayana pleaded. She was holding his face as if his was the most important answer in the world. So Muhyiddin lied, because he did not want to seem ordinary in light of the hunger to know in her large eyes. He lied because he did not believe. Muhyiddin said, "The infinite poet." "Almighty," he added, as if he and the moonbreaker were intimates. "Who deconstructs in order to renew." He repeated the word "Almighty" to watch the ooze take over her face. He hoarded her wonder for himself. They watched the sky, saw stray night clouds, a fraction of the moon and traveling stars. "Read," she then said, both her hands gesturing skyward. He waited. "Read more," she commanded, but he had forgotten how. Used to wandering down random trails as he was, he had lost his way. So they watched the sky. Ayana tilted her head back, squeezing her eyes shut, then opening them. She asked, "And the ocean? She is saying what?" Muhyiddin listened. "Who are you?" he interpreted for her. "Who are you?" "I am Ayana," she screamed to the water below, leaning over the edge. "Now you." "I am Muhyiddin," he muttered. She exclaimed, loud, "I am Muhyiddin," he bellowed to the wind and the waves. They giggled. They watched the sky. They heard the sea ask, "Who are you?" And the broken moon watched them. She turned and held his face again, the better to speak. but she forgot what she wanted to say as she studied Muhyiddin's face. A small star inside your eyes. She stretched out a finger and said, can I touch? She did not wait for his yes or no. She touched tears, the star fragments she had glimpsed, and they sat on the edge of a promontory, an aging man and a little girl, spying on stars and witnessing the passage of waves. As she pointed, he saw countries between the stars and heard silences between the ebb and flow of the tide. They sat on the edge and listened to the wind. The man and the girl, and the flow of life caused a tree's tiny branch to mark time with an intermittent tongue. In the ocean's far horizons, a massive ship made its way, a light-spotted giant shadow. Ayana whispered, where it is going? Unconscious that he had done so, Muhyiddin squeezed her to his side. Home, he replied. Where it is home, she murmured. Mahali fulani, somewhere, Muhyiddin answered.
Thank you very much for that lovely reading. And it's such a wonderful way of introducing this particular story. And what you do with this, Yvonne, is, as you did with Dust, by the way, is you take on a very small space that's generally not the most spoken about. You take on this island in the same way that in Dust, you took on a place that's not the Nairobi or Mombasa or the big city. Can you tell me, and yet in so doing, you also then get into a space where you show how even the small places can be affected by global issues. Can you tell me about why you chose maybe Pate Island for this particular narrative?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your question, Zuki. You know, the assumption of smallness is a pretension of ours who particularly live in and come from the metropole, in the big cities. And when you go to Pate, you understand it's not a small space at all. In terms of history, it's one place where you can go into and touch 1,000-year-old artifacts that are still present to the lives of the people there. And one of the strange things about this almost invisible island, invisible only in the contemporary maps, sometimes it doesn't even show up in the maps. It is actually the ground zero of the so-called war on terror. It is in Pate that that idiot, the one that was involved in the blowing up of the embassies, went to hide, only because of the nature and the character and the history of Pate. Pate is the place you go to wherever you are from the world to become something else and to remain untouched by the rest of the world. So it's an immense place, and when you go there, you are struck by the fact that all the world is there. But even though all the world is there, they're all now, what has happened to them, there's a kind of alchemy that happens on the island. They become off the island. So it's a so-called war on terror, and quite frankly, also the story of China's return to the African continent. And I think that it is very, very important to indicate that, and now I'm speaking as an African that got tired of the mediated narratives of what China's presence in Africa means, the assumption that it's a very recent thing, and the fact that we ourselves were not aware that we've got an 800-year-old living history of relationship and connection with China, and that kind of So it was a site that answered so many questions, but also, as you said, our invisibilities come merely from our illusions of being the center, when quite frankly we are not.
All right. I think perhaps that leads me to the next question regarding, because there's this whole Chinese Africa and Pate Island in particular, and of course Ayana being the descendant, and yet when she, after the elation of her being the descendant, she then, the moment she steps on China, she starts feeling like she is more African than anything else, and you know, I wonder whether we could talk about that, because it's something that I've seen even with some works here in South Africa, where some writers have said they're of Indian origin, and then they go to India, and then they realize that they're African.
Yes, yeah. Isn't that and that's a very familiar sentiment. That's something that happens. I don't know about you, but certainly I became more African and more Kenyan the moment I left both Kenya and the continent. And I think sometimes you have to go away home. You have to go away from home in order to find home, right? And in many ways, some of the aspects of the world that we leave home to find, imagining that it will be nirvana. Suddenly realize that people have. I think part of linked to that question is the reality of the common human journey. We are wretched in the same way, and in the same way that we are also marvelous and glorious. So the mystery of looking for, the streets paved with gold and landing in places and discovering, it's familiar in that it's exactly like that. In many ways, it's that which I just left. So that's what she experiences.
I was particularly amused with the little scene that you have at it's a very small thing, where she goes to the embassy, to the Kenyan embassy, and she's going to apply for and then suddenly it's like she just wants to speak Kiswahili, and she's like eating mandazi and drinking tea. And I was thinking about it, like, I have friends who in other places would never have cared for something like mandazi or drinking tea with milk, but suddenly, because this is what Kenyans do, they start consuming like that.
Exactly. No. I think I imagine it's. I mean, very much as you refer to it, it's the story of many of us. I mean, I remember being in Mozambique, and I love Mozambique in all sorts of ways. At that time, I was living in Eswatini, but I hadn't been home for about a year, and a car passed, and it was waving, and it had the Kenya flag. It was an army car, but it had the Kenya flag. I run after the car.
I'm trying to imagine you running after a car.
Run after the car. Imagine running after the car. Quite seriously, when it had parked in the mall, I was quite willing to stand by the car and sing the Kenya national anthem. One gets very foolish about homesickness and nostalgia. And the longing for the place one has left. Yeah. So, yeah.
With the Dragonfly Sea, you were kind of you came out with it much faster than you did Dust. And I wanted to know, was this like, had you already written it, or what was the story? Particularly because of how expansive it is. It starts in Pate Island, it goes to China, it goes to Turkey. Like, how much traveling did you do in writing this book? And how much was just like research from the big library that's Google?
Oh goodness, a lot, a hell of a lot. It was first. It was easier because I had gone through my very difficult apprenticeship with Dust. Dust was my teacher, and I had learned from Dust the lesson that Binya kept trying to tell me: get the hell out of the way of the story. So it took about 4 years to be able to understand that when writing Dust. So in Dragonfly Sea, those lessons I've learned. So I quickly got the hell out of the way of this story. But I mean, I guess it's a culmination of a lot of, rather than culmination, it's probably the beginning, because I suspect there's going to be an endless ode to the sea. I've always known I was going to do a kind of tribute to the Swahili Sea. The sea that you guys call the Indian Ocean, but only because when I was 7 years old, that's when I first encountered it, and I'd never seen anything more beautiful, more transcendent, more meaningful. So I've said it before that my life in the cities is sea haunted. There's not a day when I'm not longing for the sea, when I'm far from the sea. So I was always going to write something. So there's that reflects that love. I worked in Zanzibar as well, at the Zanzibar Film Festival. So their history kept coming at me, wave after wave, all the things, all the layers of my own ignorance that were laid bare just by being there and encountering lives and, you know, embodied histories that I had no sense of. So it was going. This book was kind of bubbling in the soul in all sorts of ways, and I think at one point, and there's the point of getting quite irritated by the mediated narratives of China's presence in Africa, and it was done, and the narratives that were going out at that time pretended that Africa had absolutely no agency, or had no opinion about this, or that, you know, the sky was falling on Africa's head and Africa was being conned. And I'm using the collective Africa, you know, the one that's in the fantasy. So in a way,
in The Economist.
You are not hiding, huh?
I mean, let's call it say.
Yes, that Africa. So quite simply, it was kind of, and it became my own quest to understand what does the meaning of China's return to Africa actually mean, in the intimate and personal histories of those who have had a long history, a long and almost a timeless relationship with spaces of the world that our contemporary telling of what's, you know, what's political and what's historical has completely either ignored or amputated. So there was that, and to be honest, I did it also as part of my MPhil, and so I learned a new method, which actually helped a lot. So I realized I need to get a lot of the kind of the political and social and cultural angst out to write the critical paper, and having released that, then the story can flow. Yeah.
Okay. You tackle some really big issues, even if it's, as the story is very much about this young woman, Ayana, and the people in her life, and this little island party, and then of course when she goes away. Amongst them, obviously you've mentioned right now xenophobia, but there's also Islamophobia, which is and the government's complicitness in the torture of its own citizens.
Yes.
And I wanted us to address that, because it's not the first time you've done that. You do that pretty much in all your work. You've done that in your Caine winning short story. You've done that in Dust, and you do this again, even with these characters who might be otherwise considered, maybe many people would overlook. They're not a Mike Sonko and loud and you know, whatever. They're just like people who otherwise maybe like even electoral officers don't even know them. You know what I mean? So I wanted you to talk about that, the big issues that you bring with these people who are otherwise very ordinary, very, very little known, who would otherwise be ignored.
You know, I think there's a fundamental, I think at the core is the question of who is the human, right? And these are, if you will, they're representations of the human. The fact that the policies that are undertaken, people, you know, when we read about them, one tends to assume that, you know, they're orderly and they will only affect a certain kind, and the lives of the, as you said, the most ordinary, yet they're extraordinary. I find them the most extraordinary. They are the most extraordinary. And as Michael Armitage, the visual artist, says, ordinary people living the most extraordinarily heroic lives, quietly and without much noise, and they are heroes in their particular lives, right? So and you know, I don't know what I can say. That policies impact the ones that we render invisible, and yet they're not invisible in their own lives. They're heroes in their own stories. They're heroes in their own spaces and in their own context, and they're missed when they go missing, right? and
Yeah, I'm
we
thinking about Muhyiddin and his son, for instance, you know, and
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
And the
I-
treatment that he gets when he goes to the big city that is Nairobi, you know, for instance.
and it's the story of many. So what I actually do is, these are stories I hear, and these are stories that I'm told. So they show up as part of the story, as part of the character life. But it also, for what it's worth, I'm African and I'm Kenyan, and I want us, I desire. That's my wound, but that's also my longing. I want us to be exceptional. I want us to be the best humans in the world. And when we fall short of that, it hurts me. It hurts, but it hurts it hurts our people. We can do and we need to do better. And the fact that our states, I wonder, and maybe Zuki, I don't know if you have any answers. The fact that our states, our so-called independent states, collude so quickly with strangers and aliens to brutalize their own people and do so with great enthusiasm, that is so highly problematic to me. More than problematic, it's a source of shame also. So yeah, so it'll show up.
I've never really actually thought of us really as independent states. You know,
even though we tout it, I know what you
mean. Even though we claim to be. I mean, you know, remember that most recently the story regarding the vaccines and who gets to fly into the UK. Then it's like,
don't
okay,
you
but
tell me.
look at us. You know, why aren't you giving us this? Like, why are you so entitled? But
yeah.
But I mean, I also think, if you will, like in South Africa, there's a word called there's a word izinduna, like middlemen, you know, like, if you will, the home guards of capital. And I think that's what we have. I think that's what we have in our leadership. And so, you know, I think talking about independent states is a bit of a stretch, and that's why, you know, your books and Dragonfly Sea in particular, like, resonated so much, because I could see the parallels with and the horror, but then also how there's a narrative that's set. So you have the narrative is set in the newspapers. So you have all this bombs going off and stuff and everything, and then there's a wider Islamophobia narrative that's then taken by the state at the expense of, like, majority of the citizens who are not involved in being Al-Shabaab or, you know, in Nigeria, Boko Haram or whatever it is, right?
But with particular reference to East Africa, the state that should know better, with officials that should be grounded in history, should have understood the complexities and varieties of Islam, and the fact of the type of Islam that has infused even the character of our particular nation. The fact that these guys would offload that for a myopic and actually, frankly, stupid idea of Islam that's perpetuated by those who obviously never consult books, strangers who have this one idea of what Islam should be, and then bring it here. The fact that we have these allegedly intelligent Kenyan officials implementing that narrative as if that is the truth, that is the reality, even before the evidence, of their own of their lives, of the people that they govern. I mean, it's there's the Islamophobia you're talking about, but there's the abandonment of thinking that is, for me, is a more crucial, is a more interesting crisis. You know, I don't know if you get worried. I certainly I get worried, and it means then that we're able to articulate the, if you want, the advantages or and I don't want to use the word advantages. We are unable to articulate the history of Islam as it has unfolded and informed the space, the East African and the Kenyan space, even if that version is very different from the Wahhabi version that's going around the world. And the fact that there's, even within our museums, or none of our historians dared speak up and say, look, guys, there's a variety of there are different expressions of Islam. This one brush stroke applied to all versions is madness, actually.
Yeah. Now, you've got a character who by turns scares me and fascinates me, Corey.
I knew it.
He is a scary character. I mean,
I knew it.
He's such a conflicting human being, because in one place he says home is imagined, Miss Ayana, but in the same space, in the next breath he says, this is home, when he's talking about Istanbul. And I wanted you to talk about this contradiction, but also how even Ayana herself doesn't actually know what her feelings about this man are. Like, in some ways, it's like every time I read him, and I've read your book like maybe 4 times, I just I have like my heart in my mouth. I know what's gonna happen, but I don't know what's gonna happen, and I'm like, okay. Oh my God. And you have a sentence, I think it was on 321. Ayana looked at him. She turned back to the crowds, unease. A sense that she was being herded into something unseen, as if the crowds were in on the plan. Human traffic around them. And it's such a double entendre, isn't it? Because
Yes.
there is also the thing where you also think, oh my God, is this guy going to traffic her? What is up with Corey?
You're a writer yourself. Somehow you don't know where these characters show up from. and once they express their free will, I mean, he is that boyfriend your parents warned you about. He's the one that you should not, he's that attractive, seductive snake that you should not be attracted to, yet you are. And you hope you're the one who's going to tame him, but you know very well. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, his mother certainly thinks a baby is perfect. As they do. As they do. I guess. Yeah.
What can I say?
From Edgar. Sorry. Regarding Ayana and Munira. And he says, can you say something about the mother-daughter relationship? And especially what she wanted to achieve by the Wama Shriek event.
Oh.
Yeah, but please say it without giving away too much, because we still have books to give away.
Okay, well, let's try. So I was I don't know. The dreams of our mothers, I'm interested in. The dreams, especially of those of my mother's generation. The dreams they set aside in order to fulfill society's expectations. But if it wasn't necessarily society's expectations, to live out the fate that they either stumbled into or that fell upon them. And Munira is that. And she is I think I'd come from one of those encounters with these amazing, tremendous women who had, come home from wherever it is with their incredible degrees and their big dreams of what they were going to do and how they were going to do it. And somehow, either life happened or it kept being postponed, or they kept postponing it, or they subsumed themselves into the care, the necessary care of children or of extended family or other things or expectations. The thing is, one of the things that struck me is that those dreams don't go away. It is the realization those dreams don't go away. They may putrefy or they lurk. So when Munira encounters these characters that are promising her a kind of restitution. She will be bright again. She will realize all those things she ever wanted to do. She will show those people who have looked down on her. The only sacrifice is her daughter. Yes. But even that sacrifice is presented as something good and something useful. I mean, Zuki, these are the stories of the mothers we've heard about in, the tourist sites, Malindi, that kind of thing, where they're told, okay, I'll give my daughter a better future if I hand her over to this greater imagination. Yes.
Yeah. Right. I think I want to come back again to Corey because Corey and Ayana. And I particularly wanted to address, there's this thing that you do, this guy, on paper, he looks like he's got it all, he's suave, and yet Ayana can't really surrender herself to him. So, and I thought about it as, was that like wealth as being suffocating, or was that more of freedom being inalienable? So Ayana wants to be able to go where she wants to, as opposed to this guy who wants to take care of her and he's suffocated and he wants to do things for her, And I was conflicted about which one, and I always seem to get conflicted about which one it is. Is it wealth as suffocating or freedom as inalienable?
Inalienable. I'm more inclined towards the freedom. The idea of she's in many ways, she embodies the sea, and there are any number of fools in the world who have tried to dam the ocean, to dam it and control the waves, harness the waves. So it might be tempting. It means placidity. It means a kind of a familiarity and unmoving. So that's what she has to, that's her own conflict. That's what the Ayana has to battle, the possibility, the fact that, her life can be ordered and written for her, her destiny subsumed, and she becomes a caricature of her own, a facsimile of her own life, while having everything taken care of her, or she makes her way through the world, not partly on her terms, even though she gets wounded by the world. Yeah, it's her own. It's a place of her own battle as a character. Okay. Yes, yeah.
And there is also the captain of the ship that brings her, who then later on, morphs into somebody else. and Ligen. And I wanted the other thing.
Jinlai. Okay.
Yeah. He's very at the beginning, when he's on the ship, obviously he's like this powerful captain. But I couldn't help also just seeing the underlying thing about how so often there are people who seem powerful, but they're easily they're sacrificed by even more powerful people. And I'm thinking about how even, and this is not the first time that you've done it in your narrative, even in Dust, Odedi is this potentially powerful, upright guy, but even he is sacrificed, at some point in time when he calls out something that's wrong. Is this something we expect to see more in your narratives?
Likely, they will show up, I think, but it's I think it's the sense of Zuki. I find it so unfair. People like Munyake, the one, the Goldenberg whistleblower.
Yes, I know, David.
He does that the thing of a great integrity. In other worlds, he would have been a hero, but he dies alone and miserable and
a pauper, and
it's so unfair. And I think that narrative has seared itself. So in a way, maybe, and it's I guess. I know a lot of people say life is unfair. I don't want that. I don't want that to be true. I prefer not to think life is unfair. I think people can be very profoundly unfair.
But doesn't that come to the, sorry, go on.
No, but again, it's, I think, part of that thing that Michael Armitage, the painter, noticed, the quiet heroism of the most ordinary people that never make it into the headlines. Yeah.
I wanted to say that doesn't that then come to the core of, I imagine, not necessarily, not just in writing, but why we create art anyway, because there is the eternal hope that maybe this will be like somebody will take heed. Like I think we probably would stop creating art if we lost hope, wouldn't we?
yes, that's a thing. We always hope.
You have a Caine and you're like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And then, the world disappoints you and you're like, why did we learn from him? And then, and so forth and so on,
But I'm always struck by how many forces converge, how many potent forces converge to destroy the voice of truth or reality or witness. I've always been amazed by that. So and I don't have an answer. I have no idea why that happens. How many thieves that don't get along will converge in order to destroy the one person who is saying something contrary. Upright. Yes, yeah. So I guess that's why it'll remain a puzzle until either someone solves it or the story solves it for me.
Okay. Rujeko has a question, which is something that you answered earlier, but she arrived late, and she wanted to know the difference between your writing processes, Dust and Dragonfly Sea, how long they both took. I know how long Dust took.
7 years, 3 years.
What inspired them, your personal experience in crafting each story? Which was the more joyful book for you to write? They're both tortured in a way, but the one
Dragonfly Sea. It was joyful, and it had, because it had the sea, of course. Yeah.
Did you get to just go and do a chill out on Pate Island or something,
Yeah, I've got a high maintenance muse. So the high maintenance muse wants to go to places before. It doesn't care that I may not have the money, but it needs to go to the places in order to get moved or inspired or to find elements for the story. Yes, yeah.
Okay, and she also wants to know what your personal experience was in crafting each story. I think, which is the last part of the question.
Okay, so the first Dragonfly Sea, I was an absolute newbie, and when fear or uncertainty showed up, I treated it as the end of the story, the end of life, the end of my purpose. But I understand now with Dragonfly Sea, these things are just merely elements of the storytelling process. So if fear and uncertainty show up, they're just part of the creative process. Dust was very much my teacher. There were a lot of assumptions I had about what it takes to write a book. I thought it would take 5 weeks to write a long novel. But yeah, so at every single point, part of the discovery of getting out of the way of the story, understanding that characters have free will, that your political and socio-political positions have nothing to do with the character's socio-political positions. So if a character shows up that is completely anathema to the positions you hold, actually it's none of your business. Your job is to write them, not to judge them, which is what I was doing a lot of in Dust. I did a little less of that with Dragonfly Sea. Research is essential. Ask a lot of questions. And it's okay to explore. One of the things Dust taught me that I applied very quickly in Dragonfly Sea is it was okay to understand some of the bigger conceptual ideas around the themes, to engage the philosophers as well, just in order to get that out of the way. and then return to the story a little less burdened. Yeah.
Music is so central to how you tell the story. How much of a role does music play when you are creating? Do you listen to music, or do you work in silence, or
no, it's absolutely, music is absolutely, it is so intrinsic to the writing journey for me, writing story, the writing moment. Of course, yes, there are moments where absolute silence is, I need absolute silence, but a lot of the times I will only find the story once I hear its music. I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
absolutely. And sometimes the soundtrack is not.
I need a soundtrack before I start writing.
Yeah, sometimes the soundtrack is absolutely something completely alien even to the context. And it's amazing, in this case, it was in Dragonfly Sea, the Lacrimosa shows up by Zbigniew Prajna, right? Every time, and it's so amazing. I'd go into a strange place or a different country, and out of the blue, it would rise. The soaring music would rise, and he so I said, okay, this is the music muse that wants to show up in this particular story. So yeah, I need the music, and I know I can't begin a story until the music also comes.
Okay. Here's a question that I've been meaning to ask, and I think I've asked every writer who's come on this. You have written like nonfiction, but you also write fiction, and I wanted to know, there are a lot of like, does political correctness ever get in the way of your fiction?
No way, not anymore.
Oh, okay.
Binyavanga beat that out of me.
But how do you then react when you're like at a literary event and somebody says to you, this person, how could you do that? They are A, B, C, X, Y, Z. How do you respond? Do you just tell them, well, it's not me, it's that character, or
it's the character, it's the story, it's the story.
No,
really,
yeah,
that's what I say. It's a story. I always give them the lesson that I learned very difficult, very painfully. Get the hell out of the way of the story. And quite frankly, the characters have no time for your own kind of political positions. I remember when I was judging Ayana, you talk about Correa. I was horrified that she.
Why were you horrified with
Correa, you loved her. No, the presence of Correa. Correa was supposed to be, Oh, by the way, and Jinlai was supposed to be a villain in construction. He was supposed to be the kind of the.
But they never turn out the way you want them to be, do they?
No, they don't. So I was judging her, and when I was judging her, the story dried up. So I remembered again, follow this. Trust the characters, trust the story, trust their will. Yeah, and I think I know I imagine there's some beginning writers there. I know it's a very. It's one of the hardest lessons to learn. I think I'm a bit of a story purist. The kind of the story takes precedence over my particular opinions. Yeah.
Now that you talk about that, here's another question for you. As a writer, are you the type of person who does one chapter and it has to be perfect before you write the next one, or do you vomit out the story and then you then like improve on it and you double check the things? What's your process?
It is 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 1 step back. It's kind of I'll be working on a chapter and moving on to the next, but then something happens there that I realize, oh, that's what happened. That was what was missing in the first page. So I go back there. I go back to the first chapter. I spend a lot of time in the first 4 chapters. And especially chapter 1 for me almost needs to have a kind of condensation. Hold the seed. I treat chapter 1 as the seed of the entire story. So little strokes, little elements, little hints of what's to come. But it's not a full. So when I reach the end, I start again. Yes, yeah. Writing for me is rewriting.
Yeah. When you get to the end, are you just like you know, after you've done maybe like, when you get that final draft, you just like edited it, you're like, I really don't want anything to do with this book for a while, you know, just I'm done,
Yes.
you know, like
I'm
why?
done. Yes.
Why am I doing this
Done,
to myself?
Actually, no, but the next story shows up, and the moment the next story shows up, it's a bit like a cat.
You start
and,
again,
and
yeah.
I starting again, and my books as well treat me like as if, you know, they treat me like a cat. They kind of don't call us, we'll call you scenario kind of thing. They move on without me. Yes, I might want to cling and hold on, but they disappear. They go off and find their people.
Yes. There's a question here from Detlef. He says, is there any chance that Dragonfly Sea is going to be translated into German, or any other language?
It has already been translated into German. It was released last year in German.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes. Yes, thanks to the German readers. And yes, it's going to be out in Russian and quite a few other languages. So probably Spanish. I think there are few translations in the offing.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Me, I just want a Kiswahili or Zulu or Xhosa translation. And I see Spiwa is here. Maybe you can do your Xhosa.
Spiwa! Hey, brother, how are you? Congratulations on Imbiza. I'll send you the video.
Thank you, good. I'll be happy to translate to Xhosa.
Njani.
Right. There is another message here. Not a question, but a comment. This is from Degwa. He went to coast in November 2020. On his third day, he was in Watamu. And after one pays for a boat ride at the marine offices, the ride commences, and the first attraction that tourists are treated to is the dolphin sighting. He might not understand what Yvonne feels when she's close to the sea, but he can imagine it being seen, because seeing these beings move effortlessly through the water, he could only imagine, in his memory of experiencing the sea through Yvonne's book, it all came together, the power of the waters. And so he says, thank you, Yvonne.
Oh, Dagwangu, thank you for that. Yes, thank you for your words. Means a lot.
Right, you are supposed to be going for Dad. Tell us about that. What's that all about?
The German. I don't know whether it's culture office, government. Well, I got a residency, a DAAD. Artist in residency, one among quite a few, and I'm supposed to get there. Actually, I was supposed to already be there, COVID-19, all sorts of things, but yes, I'll probably be there end of this month. The purpose of which is to work on my next book. And I'm excited about it.
No pressure, but when can we expect it?
Hey, when
People would like to know, once your book is published, yes, how many times you read it? Like, how many times have you read that from beginning to end since publication?
Not at all. Not at all. Literally, it's my books treat me the way I wasn't joking when I say they're like cats. You know, the cats that say, "Don't call us, we'll call you." So they move on, and in a way, I'm left to also move on. But it's when we have sessions like this, when I read excerpts. That's my next encounter with the books as well. Maybe one day I will pick them up and read them again.
Do you have like excerpts that? Because I do that. Do you have excerpts that you're just like, okay, this is the excerpt I'm gonna read, and you return to over and over when you're doing literary events or literary festivals, and then the rest of it you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna read this from cover to cover.
Chapter one. Chapter one.
And in all that madness, time has just gone by, and it's that time of the day. It's 3:57. I've got 3 minutes to select 5
I think
winners.
sorry, there was just one question. When do you know, Yvonne, when do you know the story is done?
I missed that.
Yes, you feel it. It's a feeling when all the pieces seem to have come together, and also the editor says, Yvonne, it is done, and extracts the book from you. Yeah.
All righty. Okay, now we are selecting the winners for 5 copies of Yvonne's beautiful, brilliant Dragonfly Sea right here.
Thank you.
Okay, our first winner, Tafadwa Choto. Is Tafadwa in the house?
He
I thought I
was
saw
at
her.
least in,
Yeah?
he was at least in the house. I've seen him.
Oh, okay.
Or her.
It's her. Is she here? Well,
I like
first
that.
winner. Well,
Luck be a lady
she's not
today.
here. I don't see her. I don't see her, so I think she just missed that one, unless she comes in before again. All right, our next winner is Irene here. Irene. Okay,
No,
Irene is not
Irene
here.
is not here.
Already.
From Uganda.
Yes. Right. Next winner. You're a winner.
Who?
Masa.
Helen. Oh, good for you, Helen. I love your line. Luck be a lady today. Yes, luck is a lady today. Well done.
Zuki, today I must win something. Thank you.
Yes, I will. What I will do, Helen, is I will talk to Ahmed, and you can get your copy from Prestige.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you. Thank
there
you.
you are. Right. Our next winner. How, Rujeko, you're cleaning them up, eh? Rujeko, are you here?
I am.
Okay, you are next winner.
Oh, so nice. Wow. Thank you.
Next time we'll be making
Well
you
done,
pay for the-
Rujeko.
Next
Thank
time we'll be
you.
making you pay for the postage.
No.
May I ask where Rujeko is? Is she in UK?
Yeah, she's in the UK.
Oh, the UK book UK version is coming out in September.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, but anyway, you deserve this. You should, yeah.
So looking.
Let them post this.
Is Stephanie here? Stefan Krasner, Stephanie from Goethe-Institut.
No, unfortunately.
All right, that's a pay. We have 3 more winners to select. Is TJ Benson here? TJ?
No, also
TJ is not here. Okay.
my friend from Nigeria.
Yeah, I'm gonna send him a message and tell him he won and then he lost. Ubaji Isaka Abubakar. Ubaji, you're here, right? I can see you.
Yes, I am here.
Yes, congratulations.
Well
I'm
done.
gonna email you so that
Well
we get your
done.
mailing address. Well done.
Where is Ubaji from?
I'm a Nigerian actually, but I live in Somaliland, East Africa.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
cool.
brilliant.
You're the first from Somaliland actually joining us. That's great.
Yes, I think so. I should suppose, but I'm not a Somalian. I'm a Nigerian. I only work in Somaliland.
I understand.
All right.
Next winner, our 4th winner is Tonderai Chindigo. Tonde.
Tonderai, who was castigating Degwa. Well done.
Tonde, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Fantastic. Okay.
Oh gosh, thank you so much. I wasn't trying to put my hand up to win, but
it worked. Your castigation.
Our final winner.
Is
Our final winner.
Isn't Dekwa still in?
Michelle Nana says, is
Everyone
Michelle
is
here?
praying that Ndegwa.
Is Michelle here?
No, East African.
Oh my
But
goodness.
no, there is an East African. Helen is an East African, and what you call it stays in East Africa. Ubaji stays in East Africa. So final winner. Truth Smith.
Yes.
Yay! Hi, I'm here. Yay!
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Well done.
I'm an American in Dar es Salaam.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
You are the first winner we have from Dar.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. Congratulations, everyone. And Ndegwa, better luck next time. Yvonne, Ndegwa wins every time. This is like the second time he's failed to win.
It was Tonderai. Tonderai planted something on the ground. No. Oh, well done, everybody. And well done, Zuki. Thank you for this. It's a lot of fun.
Pleasure.
Yes.
And thank you, everyone. Helen, Alison, hope you enjoyed your books. Ndegwa, there's a book coming your way anyway from the first artistic encounters of the virtually yours of the year. So I will be sending that through to you. It's going to be signed. So there is that for the delay. So apologies again for it. Over to you.
Yeah. I would like, before we start, send my greetings to Chekasu, my friend from the Western Africa. Nice to, I didn't see you, but nice that you're joining us as well. And maybe you can write something on the Bakwa magazine as well one day. No? About virtually yours, I mean. So I would like to ask Zukiswa, what's coming up next? Can you tell us a little bit already?
Yes, I can. Our very next virtually yours is going back a few years, and the reason I'm going back for a few years is because I'm hoping that we can, we can just do it a mix. But I know that there'll probably be a translation in Germany. We're gonna have somebody from Angola. His name is Onjaki, and we'll have his book, Good Morning Comrades. That's for the month of May. For the month of June. July, I have managed to get Ishmael Beya from Sierra Leone. So we've got a lot of exciting things coming up. So June we have Angola. July we've got Sierra Leone, and the cashew. Maybe one of your writers will be translated very soon, and we can have somebody from Cameroon translated into English. How's that? Over to you, Detlef.
Yeah, no, okay. I just want to give Chekasu time to unmute, but maybe he did just not hear right at the moment. Okay, but before we go back to our final music, I would like to thank you, Zukiswa, very much, and Yvonne, thank you very much for this wonderful and insightful book review. I think when the people start writing me at the beginning and saying, "Oh, I cannot miss Yvonne on virtually yours," there were more than one, so I understand now. Thank you very much for you both.
Thank you, Zuki, and thank you, Dita.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you, Detlef, and thank you, Yvonne. And thank you, everyone, for showing up, as always.
Of course.
Wow.
Thank you.
So enjoy a little bit, relax the last few minutes with our, I could not resist again, for the Melusizwe Brothers with the new song Lost in the Night. Bye-bye. See you next time.
Bye.